research tools on a case study where the company is shop here. The company's concern is that the sales has been reducing even though they are using ethical source for their products. So to explore the potential of ethical markets and consumers, we are conducting a research focusing on whether shop peers really need to pay attention on whether on ethical sourcing, which will increase their cost but the same revenue as others. So today we are going to explain more for quantitative factors, qualitative factors, last but not least, conclusions and recommendations. And for our data, the surveys was conducted through online survey with a total of 209 respondents. And they consist of minimum age would be 15 to 20 years and the maximum age range would be 60 to 65 years old. And majority of the respondents were female compared to the male respondents. And most of the respondents were perceived to be 25 to 30 years old, occupying 32.5% of the total. And for our variables, purchasing decision would be dependent variable, price, knowledge and awareness, self-actualization through ethical behavior would be independent variables. And these are the questions that we use for our purchasing decision: price, and another would be knowledge and awareness and emotional self-actualization on our survey. And next, I will be talking about the purchasing decision for the results and the findings. And in that, for the purchasing decisions, we use 3 questions on our survey. One would be price affects my purchase decision. And number 2 would be before I decide to buy something, I will do my own basic research first. And the last but not least, buying something I want makes me feel happy. So for all these questions, majority of our respondents strongly agree with these. So next, Jessica will talk about the price.
So I will be discussing about the independent variable and then their result and finding. So for the result, right, survey result, many participants agree that price is significantly affected on their choice of the product, and also half of the participant is willing to pay more for the ethically produced product. And since majority, they care about the quality of the product. So for our SPSS result, right, the chi-square value between purchase decision and price is 291.043, and the significant p-value is 0.00, which is less than 0.5. So it's also identified that the Spearman correlation is 0.651 and the significant p-value is 0.00, and which is also less than 0.05. So we can say that purchase decision and price hypothesis testing is valid. So we can say that there is a correlative between purchase decision and price. Okay, next is for the finding for knowledge and awareness. Survey results found that many participants find out in more detail about the product before making their purchase decision. And majority also agree that they will buy a product that is produced ethically. And for our result for the SPSS for knowledge and awareness, it's also the chi-square, the p-value of the chi-square, we got it for 0.00, which is less than 0.05. And also for the Spearman correlation, the p-value significant is 0.00, so it's also less than 0.05. So hence we can say that our hypothesis testing for the purchase decision and knowledge and awareness is valid. So the next is for the emotional and self-actualization. And majority agree that their ethical produce purchases will have a positive impact on laborer in production line, and also they agree to gain the self-fulfillment from their purchases. So for the SPSS result, it's also the chi-square, the p-value, the significant is 0.00, which is less than 0.05, and the same for the correlation, Spearman correlation. We got it for the 0.00, which is also less than 0.05. So that means that all the variable, the emotional, the knowledge and awareness and the price, they are all correlative to the purchase decision. The next, my teammate will be presenting about the interview questions.
Yeah, thank you, Jess. At this point in time, right, I'll be talking about the qualitative research portion of our business research. Basically, for this portion, we'll be talking about like one-on-one personal interviews with all our interviewees, which also allows us to actually extract more information, open-ended information, right, from the interviewees in terms of how they feel about our subject itself, as well as the questions. So basically, right, our sampling size, our sampling method is actually convenience sampling, which is our friends, family members, and colleagues. But we did apply a small element of purposive sampling, right, onto our interviewees, which is making sure that they have adequate knowledge on ethical consumption, as well as ethical market behavior as well. So during our interview with our participants, we actually discovered three key process, right, or stages in the buying process, which is actually the first part, which is our consumers. They buy because they want to buy a specific product, which they actually wanted in the first place, which is why they actually proceed with a research on the maybe the quality, the price, the design, etc., before deciding on the particular product. And along the way, right, they may discover that this brand itself, which is carrying a product, is actually how you say, not producing ethically through unsustainable manufacturing, which is quite frowned upon in the industry. However, right, they may actually continue to proceed to buy the product if they can't find alternatives, which means that these people, right, even though they are aware about ethical consumption, they are well versed in the unsustainable manufacturing industry, they still choose to buy products from unethical companies because they like the product itself, they like it very much. It's actually an emotional aspect. Then the third point, which is actually quite interesting, is because once they buy the product itself, they are willing to actually feedback to the company on their unethical practices, hoping that these companies, right, improve on their ethical manufacturing practices, which is very, very interesting because they are trying to give these companies a second chance to improve their brand image, at the same time improve their manufacturing processes and their ethical image as well. From there, right, these are the samples which we actually obtained from the interview transcriptions. So as you can see, some of our consumers, right, they are willing to buy products from unethical companies, which could actually show that maybe the ethical market may not be as huge as what shop here perceive or what we actually perceive in the industry. Because for data we obtained from the survey itself, mainly is that we understand people may be more, more righteous in front of the computer. When face to face, right, they may express their opinions in a different manner also. So from here, I conclude about my qualitative portion, which will be moved on to Seth, and he'll be talking about the findings and conclusions.
Okay, so basically our findings, we actually conclude from the mixed methods. So actually our survey data identified that the consumer purchase based on 4 criteria, whereas the results are most ideal when information is being acquired behind a computer screen. So in our interview transcript, we also allow us to understand the consumer behavior, which may be implicated by emotional aspects such as the desire for a specific product, which they have been eyeing on, despite knowing that the company may not be manufacturing ethically. So besides that, our qualitative part, through the data itself, we actually identify that the price is the most valuable, which means the impact most on the purchase decision. So our recommendation, we actually focus on this aspect. Yeah. So in the ethical consumer market, it might not be as huge as what short-term management have perceived, which is what we actually derive from our findings itself. Then even though Short Hill have been sourcing ethically, but they did not see the growth, which is this is justified by our results and our findings. So despite the increase in costs through this new approach, so basically Shop here they might not have actively announced their ethical sourcing and should actually do it in a proactive manner. So they might actually conduct more marketing to let our consumer aware that they're actually doing all this ethical sourcing. So alternatively, shop here can actually direct their resources towards producing better quality design and trendy products and apparels, and actually reduce the budget they use on ethical sourcing, as we know that the ethical market might not be as huge as what the consumer is actually willing to spend. Yeah. So this will actually limit their impact it plays on the sales itself. Yeah. Thank you.
Any question from the class? How many codes that you identify from your qualitative methods actually can stop